They believed he had a puncher's chance before the fight, and the coach still believes that he won because of a puncher's chance after the fight. I'm not gonna lie, this isn't too surprising. Alexander Volkanovski's head coach, his #1 coach, Joe Lopez, had an interview to update on Volkanovski's condition and what happened in the fight. So the head coach is supposed to be the brains behind the fighter in a sense, right? He's supposed to understand the technique and the skills and the game plan more than anybody else. So he should understand what happened in that fight, right? Well, he said Topuria got lucky. He said that there was a puncher's chance that Topuria had, and he won because of the puncher's chance, which means that he got lucky because it wasn't about the technique, it wasn't about the skill, it wasn't about anything else except that he got lucky with that punch, which is wild because he of all people should know that is not true. Even Volk is giving credit and respect to Ilia Topuria for what he did. But now I wonder if Volk is going to listen to his head coach and start to believe in this, oh, he got lucky thing, which I understand from the fighter, because the fighter is usually the one that's delusional, where the coach is usually the one that's realistic. Because you have to be realistic in order to understand the techniques and the truth of what happens in a fight. You can't live in delusion and be a fan of your fighter, which essentially what it seems like Volk's coach is doing. He's being like a fanboy of Volk, and that is never a good thing for a head coach. You got to stay grounded and truthful as possible. This also isn't the first time. Remember that Volk was saying that Topuria only had a puncher's chance before the fight, and the coach still believes it. It tells me that Volk doesn't believe it anymore. He's given the respect to Ilia Topuria, which we did see in the post-fight press conference, but the coach is still being delusional.
Yeah, obviously everyone does have a puncher's chance, but to be quite honest, I think that's all he's got. You know, I'm very confident in my experience and how calculated I am, my fight IQ, and I think that's what gets it done. You know, and again, he's young, he's dangerous, a lot of hype around him, but that all ends in a couple of weeks.
So this is what he says in the interview. Quote, Alex was going through the game plan, was finding his range and started to touch him up. I was disappointed by the result, knowing that Volk has a much better skill set. We knew coming into this fight that Topuria had a puncher's chance, and he got that punch. End quote. So he feels like Volkanovski was doing a good job. He was fighting by the game plan, keeping the range and, throwing the kicks, throwing the jab and all that stuff. And he was touching up with the jab sometimes, right? Volk did look good. He was having some success in the fight. But then that's where you see kind of the reason for his delusion about Topuria getting lucky gets it to his head when he says that Alex has a much better skill set. Essentially, that he just believes that Alex is the better fighter, and Topuria just happened to land some punch. But it wasn't just he happened to land it, right? It wasn't just, oh, he somehow punched him in the face and that was it. The way that he got in the pocket on Volkanovski, the way that he pressured his way into the inside, and as soon as that happened, when Volkanovski was looking to tie him up, he got that single collar, that's where he got hit by the big right overhand. And the cage cutting also has to be analyzed here as well. And not only that, all throughout the fight, Topuria was constantly faking with that front step to feint like he's going to enter in close, and Volk will pump out the jab to keep him away. So it allowed Topuria to understand what Volk was looking to do in this fight, right? What was his game plan? So he had to slip it and enter behind. He knew that Volk would lean back with his right hand up to the opposite side with his chin in the air, and that's going to cause Volk's movement, his backward movement, to be very obvious because it's very difficult to change directions when you have that posture. And Topuria knew to cut him off right from there with a combination, step right, as Volk usually steps to his left when he's trying to get away from you, and punched him out with that right overhand. Volk moved into the punch. There was nothing lucky about this. Nothing. He did not win because of a puncher's chance. He won because he was the better puncher and the better fighter in that fight. It makes it seem like Joe Lopez just can't fathom that Volk lost to this guy, because remember going into the fight that Volk was saying, I'm going to make this fight look easy. And a lot of that may have been reinforced by his own coach, or his coach was believing what Volk was saying. This is going to be an easy fight. We're going to school this guy just to see Volk get knocked out in the second round like that. Maybe even Joe Lopez can't come to reality about that. From this is going to be an easy fight to my best fighter just got knocked out in the second round by this guy, which is a crazy thing for the coach to think. Remember that coaches usually should be staying in reality and not believing in hype, not believing in the fighter in that sense, like being a fan of them. And it could get into Volk's head going into a rematch that he starts to believe, oh yeah, what my coach is telling me is right. Yeah, Topuria did get lucky, which is not necessarily a bad thing for a fighter to be delusional, but the concerning thing about it is Joe Lopez might not understand what to do in order to fix this Topuria problem, because he thinks Topuria got lucky, so what is there to fix? And it's going to put Topuria at a better state in the rematch between the two, because he's going to be looking at the fight realistically and fix more things going into that rematch than probably Volk will. That's the concerning thing about this. Topuria is going to fix more things into this rematch than Volkanovski will. which might lead to an even worse loss for Volk when they fight each other again. Crazy thing, because Joe Lopez usually struck me as a very intelligent guy. He knows a lot about the game. He understands fights. He understands game plans and technique and stuff. Maybe he's just saying it to throw off the media fans and Topuria himself. Maybe he does understand it, but I don't know what he gains from that, because Topuria doesn't need to listen to what his coach is saying. Topuria knows what happened in that fight. It doesn't matter what Joe Lopez says. Whether he's realistic or not, Ilia Topuria is still going to look at the fight the same way. So I don't believe it's Joe Lopez kind of just saying stuff, you know? It sounds like he just can't believe that Volk lost like that. That's what it seems like.